So, namaste, welcome everyone to this monthly Satsang Q&A session. And this is volume 9. So, welcome if you're new to the channel. Every month we just take some time to read through anonymously the questions that have been sent in from Satsang on the Satsang page on helenhamilton.org. And I try to answer as many as I can. We do have quite a few building up now, so might be a little delay between you sending it in and answering. But I try to do my best as always. And as always, Anish is here to read the questions for me to help. So thank you, Anish, for doing this as always. And whenever you're ready, thank you.
Thank you, Helen. First question. I'm going through a great dark night of the soul. My daughter is hospitalized with a serious psychiatric illness. It has been a while and she's not getting better. I cry desperately, helpless. Nothing depends on me. I do what you say about giving, being silent, still. This is a success, but I find it hard to believe. Is there anything else I am missing? Thank you so much. I must be very attached to her. Too much ego?
I think it is natural that any parent would care about their child deeply like this and want the best for them. I wouldn't say too much ego, but perhaps a sense of separation here and a feeling of being powerless. You said that nothing depends on you. That's powerlessness speaking, right? This separate sense of self speaking, feeling powerless to really make a difference. But there is something that we can do to help this situation, and that is either our self-inquiry or our contemplation. And you'll find a whole list of resources on the YouTube channel here. If you look at the playlists section, you'll find a contemplation playlist section to go through the how to actually work with contemplation. So it's really suggest diving into that and questioning it, whichever emotion comes up strongly for you. You've mentioned this sense of feeling powerless or helpless to make anything happen or affect any change. And it's heartbreaking as a parent to go through something like this. But let's remember that we're playing the role of parent and child. But the same one being is manifesting as these two bodies. And so the same belief pattern is also in the parent and the child. It's passed down through our genetics, through our DNA. So as you do this contemplative work here, it's going to have an effect in every area of your life and this one also. And it's the best way that you can help, of course, also the practical help that you can provide, but also spiritual help like this. And you don't need to even mention it to your child, but it's the work that we do. It's not really a separate self doing it. It's the infinite self doing the contemplation. And that's a very different thing, very powerful. It affects both bodies, yourself and your child. So have a look at that and dive in. And don't worry about getting it right. Just do the best that you can with that, and that will be enough. Thanks, Anish.
After many years of trainings, workshops, personal development, meditation, practices, and so on, feeling and believing that spiritual progress has been made, empathy, compassion deepened, sensitivity and awareness increased. Am I now to admit that all that has been part of the illusion and perpetuation of the separate self?
Not so much that it's part of the illusion. I know it can be a lot to admit that there is no separate self in actuality. All we need to really be willing to admit is that it's not a separate self that did all of that. Empathy, compassion is manifesting naturally. spontaneously. What we say, look at as spiritual progress, is really the effect of recognizing who we are on an ever clearer and clearer level. So as I recognize who I am, it's going to manifest as these particular things. And the only thing we're discounting is the separate sense of self that wants to claim authorship and ownership of these acts. Meditation has been done spontaneously, and spiritual progress is being made in the reflection of who we are, expressing itself through and as the mind and body and our life. So we don't have to admit that it's all part of the illusion, but really just to admit that it's been happening spontaneously rather than as someone who's making progress. If we hold on to that sense of separation, we have to also experience the opposite, someone who's failing, also failure and success, or progress and resistance. Two sides of a coin, right? Progress, resistance. We have to keep on experiencing that. So the only thing that we need to be sure of is that there is no actual separate person doing the practices. And then all this stuff that is coming forth that you've mentioned here is going to come in even more abundance because there won't be any person claiming ownership of it, which is really, in fact, slowing it down, is all. So we don't have to give up all the things that we have achieved, but just that the recognition that they were going to come anyway. And that we're just working with that process more consciously here in our awakening journey. So, of course, we'd want more empathy and compassion and all of that. And it's a natural outpouring of recognizing who we are. So, I hope that helps to soften the blow, so to speak. The only story really is that I've been doing it as a separate being. I've achieved it. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. Hello, Helen. It's a pleasure to communicate with you, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and help. Feeling like we don't have free will as such, and that things are revealed in life situation, how should we act? For example, when you see or feel that your child doesn't know or doesn't see what direction to take in life, or that he keeps trying and can't find what motivates him, how can I help him or tell him? Or should I do it?
I think the best way forward with something like this is to really not know. So the instinct and the urge from our mind will be that we should know what to say or do in that moment, how to help our child. And really awakening is asking the opposite of us. What if we come to this situation with an empty sense of presence where we don't really know what's going on and we don't know how we should help, and we're not telling any stories about it at all. And of course, that may take a little while to get to that point. We're not even telling the story that we want them to get better because that is of course, in separation still. And so, not knowing anything about the situation, choosing to consciously not know anything about the situation and showing up, being present, the body, your body will do whatever it can to help your child. And that action will be appropriate and spontaneous, and there'll be a deep sense that is the right action to do in that moment. It's okay not to have a head full of strategies here. And, have those strategies really helped us anyway? And, if we begin to approach a situation like this, not knowing what to do, it might feel really unfamiliar and not so comfortable. But if we remember that the more open we can be, the more possibilities are present in that moment. And really, eventually, awakening will ask us to approach all areas of our life like this. I don't know what I'm going to say in the next few moments, I'm hearing it right now for the first time, just as you are. And there's certain areas of our life where we want to approach life with a strategy or an agenda of what we should do. And this, of course, would be one of those. We love our children. We want to ensure the best for them. But the action that comes from the body when we're not really knowing, when we're in that place of not knowing, I don't know who I am, and I don't know who this being is that I'm calling my child. I'm not telling stories of what I think I know about them. And there's an openness there for some higher manifestations to begin to occur. So it's not the most comfortable answer immediately. It might take some time, as it did for me, to come to approach this area of my life as a parent from here. Felt like I should hold on to some sense of knowing what's wrong and knowing what to do about it. And of course, if we have to talk to professionals, of course, we're not just going to say, I don't know who this being is. Um, the body will say and take appropriate action in that. But inside yourself, in your own spiritual practice, just to come to the realization who I am and who my child is the same great mystery of being. And really, I can't say much more than that inside. I don't want to say much more than that. Not only will you begin to feel better because you're not telling the stories inside, but immediately have an impact, be more peace around you and through you. And that should never really be underestimated as one of the best ways to help. You might be one of the only people that's not perpetuating the stories going on in their head, and actually able to just show up and be present for them. I really do think that's probably one of the highest gifts we can give as parents for our children. So, like, it's not the advice that the mind would like, but it is the most practical and helpful advice. And then what the body does from there, your body to help your child, will always somehow be beneficial, even if we don't know what that is until we're discovering it in the moment. So again, hope that helps. And yeah, sending my best wishes to you both. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. I started some businesses. None of them went well, and I closed them. I always look for what I'm going to do, what my livelihood would be. I only have debts because none of the businesses are successful. How can I ask my question with my finances and desire to be an entrepreneur?
So very similar experience myself, and every business I started to achieve some success, but then went um, into failure eventually. And I actually started, this is one of the reasons I started to contemplate, amongst other reasons, noticing that there was a sense of unworthiness that was reflecting as this lack of success in my business enterprises. So you have that desire there. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. And I would encourage you to really consciously look at what it is you want from your life in terms of this area of your life. To be an entrepreneur, wonderful. But let's be more specific than that. You know, how do you want to feel when you've finished working for the day? And, you know, where do you want to work? What type of work do you know? And, you know, how many hours do you want to work? You can be as specific as you like, as long as it feels good. And then on the other side, looking at any emotions that come up when you think about this. If there's fear or a sense of unworthiness or shame, the mind will say, I feel ashamed because none of my businesses have worked. But in reality, it is none of my businesses have really thrived because there's a sense of shame still. And my business can only reflect that shame back to me, the sense that I'm deeply flawed or something, I'm not good enough. So I'd really look at contemplation too, to help with this as well. If you look, there'll probably be some negative emotion there around this, which is The emotion is an outpouring of a belief, a story that we're holding on to. That's what we work with in contemplation. Again, if you check out the YouTube playlists here on the channel, one of those is exactly about contemplation, and there's some whole study sessions there you can dive into. So, all is on track. We're just letting go of these limiting beliefs that are holding this back. Wonderful. Thanks, Anish.
Your book, Into the Heart of Being, has deeply touched me. Every word resonates with truth. I can only read a page or two at a time, as each one moves me profoundly. I will treasure this book always. I do have a personal struggle I'd like guidance on. I am 33 years old and live with my mother and intellectually challenged sister, whom I care for. We recently moved to a new apartment after 10 years due to unbearable noise and disturbance from neighbors, loud parties, sexual activity, and disrespectful behavior. Sadly, the same issues continue in our new place, even though it's now family tenants above us. Their insensitivity deeply affects my peace, making it hard to sleep or even enter my bedroom. I remained celibate and spiritually focused, but these intrusive noises disturb me deeply and make me feel helpless and angry. I often wish I had the resources to move us into a quiet home. I fear this environment is damaging my spiritual growth and inner peace. I'm seeking your insight or any guidance you can offer.
So yeah, it's a very common thing, isn't it? There's a belief here that something can affect your spiritual practice or your growth and disturb your peace. When actually, whatever is happening in our life right now is there to help us deepen our awakening and understanding of who we really are. So we're never really disturbed by outside circumstances, even though the mind may say that's not true. What we're really disturbed by is our thoughts, and usually those thoughts are about what's happening. So the thought you've mentioned here is this sense that something can damage your awakening or progress, and that something, of course, neighbors in this situation, but it could be anything, something can disturb your peace. What if it's only your thoughts that can disturb your peace? And specifically, this one thought that something can disturb my peace, that you're literally already the infinite self, the infinite power behind the universe. And when this thought is subscribed to, you have to experience this thought as your life. So if you are, even if you only know this intellectually right now, if you are already the source of the whole universe, the pure awareness or Parabrahman, whatever you want to call that real being, can anything disturb you? You're formless and infinite and vast, beyond time and space, not affected by any phenomenon at all. And this belief comes from our identity as a person. This other person or these other people are disturbing me and my peace, and of course, my whole family. Um, so even if you did have the resources to move, you would take this belief with you. Instead, we can make the most out of this situation and really question this belief. Can anything disturb my peace? I would really suggest sitting with this question 5 to 10 minutes a day and doing it for 30 days in a row. Of course, the mind will have some answers to this question. All answers are just allowed. The mind will say yes, obviously. Later, it might say no. There might be some emotions that come up in response to this. But also, any particular answer at all. We're just accepting all answers. If the music starts playing next door as you're asking this question, that's an answer to this question. If the birds are singing, or if you hear one of your family members' voice or your stomach rumbles, all answers to this question. Can anything disturb my peace? Because until we question this, we're going to experience it. If we're not questioning, then we're assuming it to be true, and therefore we have to live this belief. Our life takes the shape of it. Like if we shine light through a projector on a slide, light's shining through and it projects onto the wall. Whatever is written on the slide is going to appear as a big thing on the wall. And this belief, something can disturb my peace, is literally our life, isn't it? It's projected on our life as our life. So I had this too with four small children, and there was a real big belief when I was first starting meditation that lots of things could disturb my peace. It's actually the deepening of our awakening that this is coming up for you now, to really see actually all these bodies are inside me, the infinite self. There's nobody outside of me that can have an effect upon me. So you could ask this question, can anything really disturb my peace? Or you can go right to the root, whichever feels more alive, which is, are there really any other beings? Because as we ask this question, we're going to begin to see everything is simply a way that I am arising, even as these neighbors. The disturbance of the peace, the lack of peace, is actually from the sense of separation, not from what's going on out there. When the music starts playing, there's a emphasizing of the sense of separation, you and them, so to speak. And it really feels like in that moment there's a sense of separation. So I'd work with either of those questions or both, but in separate sessions that you feel is relevant or something similar that comes up. But the idea is to really question the assumption. There are other beings out there and they can disturb me. They can cause something to happen to my inner state. Our inner state is only ever affected by our thoughts about what is and never by what is. And that will bring a sense of continuous equanimity, effortless equanimity, and peace, of course. Thanks, Anish.
Hello, Helen. I find your sharing and the question and answer sessions very helpful. Thank you. My question is this: as ego diminishes and silence increases and becomes richer, more welcome, and more relevant, the nature of conversation and relationship is changing. There seems less to discuss, less to comment on, less sharing, that is, as it used to seem mutually enjoyable and nourishing. Could it be that my consciousness or frequency is changing so I am less in sync with the people I usually spend time with? That can't be right, can it? Perhaps the people I usually socialize with will change, and there will be a stronger sense of meeting with others who are also exploring these things. Am I misunderstanding something? As I identify more with my true self, I thought I would experience more or deeper connection with all beings, not less. Am I in denial? Or maybe I've paused somewhere on the path and all this is still ego? Thank you for your response.
So something very similar happened to me on my journey, and I hear it from a lot of beings. And what it is really is just that perhaps a preference is arising, a preference or a desire arising for more like-minded friendships with people who are um, diving as deeply into their spirituality as you are. For me in my life, some people fell away, and some new people came into my life, and it took a little while, but I really recognized that's what I wanted, some deeper connection, deeper ability to uh, connect with other beings and have some very open discussions and, talk about this kind of thing together. It's natural you would have that preference, right? This is the most important thing we would ever undertake. And so it really helps to have a community or a friendship, at least, with some beings that can help us with that and support us and encourage us when things are challenging. As you acknowledge that desire and that preference, there'll also simultaneously be more peace no matter what's going on. So even if you are around someone who is talking about worldly things that may not be so interesting to you right now, still there'll be an ability to connect with that being on a deeper level as you're searching for. So perhaps you're not so interested in what they're saying, but you're interested in really meeting them. So you're sitting in front of this person, this being, maybe you spent a lot of time with in the past, and the mind would think that you know who that person is. Oh, yeah, we meet every week. We meet here and we do this thing, and a lot of memories and experiences. But if you can meet with this being without really any stories of who they are and who you are and how many times you've met, if you can for a moment meet them as if it's the first time, then even if they're speaking about something that is not your preference, there'll still be a deep peace and equanimity there in that. Really, you're meeting yourself every time, as I'm sure you may have thought about. And it's really the disturbance inside you is really from your own rejection of what you want here, your preference, your desire, and not really from what they're saying. The mind is like, I don't really want these kind of conversations. I would like some deeper, more fulfilling, richer conversations. And something is denying that. No, I should be able to be completely equanimous now, even here. But that can't happen while you're not being present with your own desires completely. So as you acknowledge that, what you really, really want, then there's a peace that will be here no matter who you're around. You know, that's wonderful because we still, of course, have to and want to interact with our families and all of that. And they may not be on the path with us. It's okay to want something different, isn't it? But at the same time, we'll find a deeper equanimity with what already is right now around us. So I'd suggest really getting in touch with what you want here, acknowledging that and acknowledging it's okay. We can be equanimous with everyone, peaceful with everyone, but we're also always going to have a preference for more conversation like this. It's just how it is, right? And we can admit that to ourselves, and then it can begin to show up for us. Hope that helps. Thanks, Anish.
I know from understanding and direct experience that I am stillness, peace, silence, emptiness, nothingness, Parabrahma, Purusha. The name is irrelevant. And I understand that no objects really exist except as mental concepts, that is, as products of our fertile imagination. But I don't know how to manifest changes in this imaginary world at will. Can your teachings help me achieve this? If so, how? Which of your books should I buy to achieve this realization?
Yeah, so there is something called the Empowerment Courses Handbook, and it deals with um, abundance, manifestation, and desire, amongst other things, and deals with those subjects from the awakened perspective, how to work with desire from an awakened perspective. Yes, the objects are imaginary, of course, but you know that doesn't help us if we can't pay the bills or let the money in or find the job we need or the partner, all of that. And to recognize that our desires, what we really want, is how this manifestation is trying to flow anyway. Our desire is a beginning of the manifestation process, not the cause of it. So it's in a thought form already as a desire, and then it's going to become more and more solid. So acknowledging our desires is going to be the first step. The Empowerment Courses Handbook would be the best one right now. But even before that, just the recognition that if it is imaginary, this world of forms, if it is an illusion that they exist separately to the formless reality from which they seem to arise, if they really are just formlessness in disguise, then how could it be hard to manifest changes in those objects? Usually there, and of course, well, maybe not of course, but the book Reality Check deals with this subject more, or now that you're formless, whichever one you feel most aligned with. Usually there's still some belief we might have seen it on an experiential level, as you said. I've seen it, I've experienced. Everything is emptiness. Um, but then when we look at money or somebody in our life, some being, or something we need, or something we want to get rid of, something we need like more energy, more time, or something we want to get rid of like fear, for example, there's still a real belief in the solidity of those things. They feel very real. And so life is just showing us which illusionary objects we're still giving a sense of reality to, and we can question that. Naturally, they'll change in the questioning. Is this, and we excuse me, we would do this by asking the question, what really is, in terms of self-inquiry, what really is money? What really is my sibling? What really is time? And beginning to dissolve in open questioning all our concepts about that particular thing. So, whichever one of those you feel aligned with, have a look at them. But most of all, we can look into self-inquiry as well. Life is showing you which objects you think are real still, right? If the more real we think they are, and of course, we don't have to get rid of all manifestation, just because it's not real. It's not real as a separate object. It is real as the infinite formlessness. And where we're having a challenge in life will show us where we're still thinking about that object. And therefore, we're giving it a sense of independent existence outside of us, the formlessness. So I hope that is helpful. Thanks, Anish.
Dear Helen, I'm grateful for your teachings on YouTube and guided meditations. I'm struggling with deep emotional wounding and going through a painful breakup in a relationship. I tried my best to forgive, but I am left feeling burnt out and disconnected from the flow of life. I want to forgive and also love who I am. I don't want to harbor resentment and victim mentality, but I'm struggling with moving forward in my life. I'm reaching out for help because I can feel you are loving. What to do with heartbreak? How to offer myself compassion? What does compassion feel like during grief? I want to live from my heart, but everything is very raw, messy, and overwhelming. Thank you for your patience and kindness. And yes, if you have received telepathic communication of a being named Daniel praying for help, that was me. I just got to the end of my rope and started praying to different expressions of love, including you, my grandmother, Buddha, Jesus, etc. Sorry for the long messages. Thank you for all your work and your love. I hope to connect.
Yeah, thank you. Forgiveness always starts with ourself. It's good that you want to forgive the other being, but that can't happen unless you forgive yourself. So forgiving yourself here in the sense of it's okay that you're heartbroken, right? Of course, we don't want it and we won't like it, but let's not tell ourselves that it shouldn't be how I feel right now. Also, let's forgive ourselves if we feel that we can't forgive someone right now. Can you accept that about yourself? Of course, some part of you is going to want to forgive them, of course. And also, of course, some part of you is going to want to hold on to that story. You can feel both, right? Can you accept both? Do we have to pick one or the other? And I might would say, well, it hurts when I look at the fact I can't forgive this person, and there's all these victim stories and all of that, which I've done myself many times, many times. But In the acceptance of there's both of these perspectives in my awareness right now, and I'm just going to let them both be. That which wants to forgive desperately, and this that doesn't want to, and will not, and never will, and is adamant, and can you let both of those be and not pick either one of them? You are the awareness that's aware of both of these. You don't even need to forgive. In and as awareness, there's no one to forgive outside of you, separate to you. So it has to come with some sense of softening inside you. This conflict is not really out there, it's in here, right? It's not some other being out there that you can't forgive in actuality. It's the fact that you're judging yourself because you can't quite let go of some of these stories. What if you accept that? Meaning, if I could let go of this story yet, I would have. I'm willing to be at the point where I can let go of them. And if I am not right now, that's okay. Compassion and love for the other being, yes, but it must come for you first because you are all there is. And really, the other being is only a reflection of what you're doing inside yourself to yourself, the attitude that you're holding. I should not have these victim stories. I should be able to forgive already. I'm not getting anywhere on my journey. These are just common thoughts, that I had. If I can't forgive right now, obviously I'm not as far ahead as I thought. But it's never what's arising that determines our awakening. It's really how we're being with what's arising. Of course, then, the infinite self, the awareness would say, of course, something wants to forgive, but feels it can't. And of course, something also really doesn't want to and will never reach that place of willingness. It would dig its heels in, right? And say, I deserve vindication here or something. The moment you stop trying to get rid of one of those and get the other, they can just both be there and there'll be a deep peace and love for yourself. Forgiveness is always an inside job, never outside. Then you realize actually it doesn't matter if I forgive that person or not. And then it's most likely to be able to happen. Because you realize they're also stuck in their own stories and had no choice yet, at least. We're coming to the point now where we are beginning to have a conscious choice whether to judge ourselves or whether to love ourselves, or even whether to love the judging that's going on about ourselves. Of course, something's going to judge, right? Judge that one out there and judge that one in here, says the mind, as if somehow that magically fixes everything. So compassion must start with you. Forgiveness must start with you. And then you watch what happens to this situation when you're willing to accept both of these perspectives about yourself. Is it actually really written in stone anywhere that this should be gone from your consciousness by now, that you should have been able to forgive by now? Not really, it's just a thought. That thought is what's causing the pain. Thanks, Anish.
Even though I remain in the consciousness of real being, eternal peace, and non separation, the desire to live with better comforts for myself and for all human beings persists. But nothing happens that leads me to satisfy that desire. It continues to be there, calling for 45 years. How can I satisfy it without effort?
So, of course, you're going to have this desire, right? And accepting that desire about yourself is perhaps the first step. Sounds like you might have done that already. It's okay to want to be comfortable and to have enough resources. Of course, it is. Enough resources even to help those around you that depend upon you. Or maybe they don't depend upon you, but your family and everything like that. So the second thing is to get really clear on what you do want, like specifically clear. So what would that look like if you had the resources to help both yourself and those around you that you want to take care of? And let's be specific. How much would that be in terms of money? And then the third thing is, or money or other resources. The third thing then is to look at what beliefs are in the way of that manifestation. Because when we look at clearly accepting the desire, defining the desire, and then looking at what beliefs are stopping the manifestation, then it will effortlessly manifest, as you're saying here. So if I want to be able to be more abundant, to be able to help myself and others, but really deep down I don't feel worthy of that, then it's literally not going to be able to show up. I have to keep living the experience that I'm not worthy or that it's not safe to have abundance. I'm not safe. And for the longest time for me, money was held away, resources, because I didn't trust myself. I thought I knew who I was, and I thought that who I am is not trustworthy. So I had to be really willing to look at if I am the infinite self already, how is it that what I want isn't manifesting? Why is it? And not the mind's version of why. Why isn't it happening? And then starts to turn and judge and blame ourselves. But curiously, what is it? Why isn't it coming, this desire? What's in the way of that? And it will always be some belief. And then you can look at that through finding the emotion. When you think about having the resources you want, are there any negative emotions? Then using a contemplation process to work with that belief behind those emotions. Simply said, when we ask, it's always given because there is only us. There is only the one being. But we can infinitely hold that manifestation just out of arm's reach because we think some belief about ourselves still as a separate self. I'm not ready for that. I'm not worthy of it. It's not safe. I'll mess it up. I'll screw it up. People will see I'm a failure. Or a deep sense of limitation. I can't get what I want. Maybe some anger or frustration. But again, if you watch the contemplation videos here on the YouTube channel, if you go to the playlist, there's some study sessions we've done on contemplation and the whole playlist that will really help you dive into that. It will be one of those three things that needs really looking at. And my gut feeling is it's the third one for you. Thanks, Anish.
Dear Helen, I feel strong shame and sadness for not becoming a mother. I'm almost 50 now, and I expected these feelings will subside. But now they are even stronger than before. I feel I won't be able to overcome this issue. Thank you.
So I'm going to be really direct here because I can feel that's what you're asking for. And the fact is, the shame is not about the fact that you haven't become a mother. The shame is a reflection of a belief that we're holding on to. For me, shame was a big part of my life. My mind said I'm ashamed because, and I was looking for a cause of that shame, something happening in my life or not happening in this case. And that's why I'm ashamed, the mind would say. What if it's the other way around? That the belief and then the shame, the emotion of shame that reflects from that is causeless, or it has no external cause. It's a belief that's just been in our psyche, passed down from our parents, and from previous lifetimes that we haven't really managed to fulfill, unfulfilled desires. Shame for me, when I looked at this, using a contemplation process, I'd suggest having a look again at the videos here on the YouTube channel on contemplation. Shame for me said I don't deserve to exist. It was really quite incredible to see that some part of me was still buying into this, even after I've begun to really see who I was. The old sense of a separate self really felt desperately, desperately flawed, unworthy, and unable to function in a normal way. So there's some belief that's in right deeply seated in there, and the shame is showing you that there's still some buying into that. So the emotion of shame is a symptom of some deeper belief inside. As you question this belief using a contemplative process, you're going to begin to let go of this belief. And I would do it for 30 days at least, consistently, a little bit each day, 5 to 10 minutes. And what you'll find is you'll begin to come to peace with the situation in the outside world. You begin to see it's not about becoming a parent. The reason, at least for the shame, is not about becoming a parent or not. You'll be able to find some peace around that situation without this belief in the way. So I'd really strongly encourage you to have a look at the contemplation videos and dive into that. Sending lots and lots of love. Thanks, Anish.
Thank you, Helen, and thanks to the team. As I understand it, non-duality teaches that the field of awareness that we are is infinite. I just heard someone ask the question, where do thoughts arise from and where do they go when they leave? Is it possible that each person's field of awareness is infinite and yet also unique to them? Like parallel universes, like a multiverse, each unbounded awareness concurrent with other unbounded awarenesses. For example, a thought may arise in your field of awareness, but not in mine. It might be a thought, and it might be a thought you often have in your field of awareness, yet I have never had it in mine. And I'm not astounded by it when you tell me what it is. And I am astounded by it when you tell me what it is, because it has never arisen in my own field of awareness before. Because we are understanding non duality from a separate self perspective, is it possible that all our understanding, however enlightened it may seem, can only be partial? Thank you for your response.
Yeah, so when we really believe ourselves to be separate, then we are distorting our perception of reality, and that understanding can never be complete, as you've pointed to here. But that doesn't necessarily need to take a long time to turn it round. If you look at awareness now, you can ask this question, am I aware right now? And as you ask that question, there's a looking and a seeing, right? And a noticing that something is here that's listening and hearing and seeing through the eyes. Something's listening to these words through your ears, awareness, we call it. And now, really spending some time looking at, is it your awareness, your field of awareness? How big is awareness? Where is your awareness? Is it form or formless? If it's a form, then there could be your awareness here and my awareness here. There could be two awarenesses. Um, and you could have a thought in your field of awareness that I don't know about over here. Or I could have one here and be completely over here. What I found when I really looked at awareness is it has no substance, has no shape. Just as I couldn't pick apart the space here now and pull it into two spaces. Can't do that with something that's formless. With an object, I could pick an object up and pull it into two pieces if I broke it, and then there'd be two. But with the formlessness, can I slice it down the middle or cut it with scissors and say, that's yours and this is mine? It's really impossible to actually divide awareness into too many or billions. As we investigate like this with a real urge to see and prove to ourselves, of course, don't take my word for it. Really check this out yourself. I began to recognize that awareness is infinite, as you said. It is literally everywhere there is anywhere to be. And then it became clearer that there's nothing outside of it. These bodies, this body and the one that you use to send the question in, are really both inside of you. There's only the awareness. There's not your awareness and my awareness. Even the universe itself and different realms of planes of existence are all inside this infinite one awareness. Really, then, everyone's thought is your thought. Everyone's emotion is your emotion. Of course, we don't doesn't mean we have them all in our particular head because that would be awful. Um, but this concept of yours and mine begins to diminish. Really, you're asking yourself this question and answering yourself here. It's weird, I know, right? But nonetheless true. So I suggest playing around with awareness like this and seeing if you can find where it ends, where it stops. If you and I were sat in the same room together, two bodies sat maybe 5 or 6 feet apart, whatever it is, can we really find an arbitrary place where your awareness stops and mine starts? When I looked, really looked with curiosity, I couldn't find that. I find only myself wherever I go. All these questions that I'm answering are from myself, to myself, from myself. Hope that helps. Thanks, Anish.
Dear Helen, it would be most grateful if you would please say something about how to recognize what is generated by the separate self or the ego and what is not. That is, how to clearly recognize or identify when it is ego that arises. Some things seem to me to be obviously egoic, but as I explore more deeply, I find that I can't always clearly discern what is ego and what is not. Thank you in anticipation of your response.
Yeah, so there's a few ways to really to do this. The first is very simply, if it's not true, meaning it's from the ego or the separate self, it will feel some kind of diminishment in the body. So our body's always telling us whether the current thought we're having is coming from separation or ego or coming from the real self. When we say or have this thought that I really don't deserve all the good things in life that I want, it doesn't feel bad because it's true. It feels bad because it's untrue. Your body is saying, false, you know? Um, but we've lost our connection with what the body is telling us. I'm really not safe. And the body says, false, I'm going to die. False, that looks like fear or whatever, right? Instead, if we entertain the thought, I am the infinite self, there'll be some different feeling, different feeling. So it's a very rough guide. If it feels good, it's coming from the infinite self. If it feels bad, it's coming from the finite, limited, separate sense of self or ego. The other way is you can literally ask your body, this thought I've just had, is it coming from ego? And you can test your body's responses. Your body has a particular yes and a particular no. So you can test this with obvious questions like, is my name Helen? Obviously, your name might be something else. Is my name Helen? I get this surge of kind of life force energy. That's my body's yes. If I ask, is my name Anish? There's a slight lowering of life force energy. It's not a big dip now because somewhere inside I also know my name is Anish, but it's very helpful guidance. The body will tell you, but you can ask some obvious questions. Am I English? Am I American? And just feel for the yes and no. Then when you're used to that, you can ask the body, is this from ego? And then listen and feel, or is this from the real self? And listen and feel. Your body's speaking to you all the time. Um, Somehow we might have lost we think that we feel bad when ego says something because it's true. It's true that I'm not good enough, and that's why I feel terrible. But your body, in fact, is always saying, not true, not true, still not true, still not true. So I hope that helps to find a way. Just play with it and practice, a little bit with some obvious questions. But just to ask that question, where is this coming from? It will get clearer. Thanks, Anish.
What role does information about the evacuation of humans to other dimensions and the existence of interstellar beings, etc., play in our practice? Is it part of the mind? And should we not take this into account for our awakening? What does it mean that it is known at popular levels that there are intergalactic wars, etc.? Are we fabricating them in our unconsciousness? Where does dynamic consciousness go when we awaken?
So all of this is fine. Anything that we encounter in life is fine, as long as we don't let it distract us from this most important work, which is to see who we really are. As we begin to see who we really are, that we are just the one being, that not only includes this planet, but it also includes everything in the universe and everything that we could ever encounter, is really our own self. If we were to encounter another species, for example, it would only be to help us recognize that that is ourself and that is non-different than ourselves. Dynamic consciousness, I'm not 100% certain what you mean by that. I found there to only be one consciousness, one awareness, one presence, and that doesn't go anywhere. Nothing changes with that. Perhaps you might be referring to the conflict you've spoken about here, but any and all conflict really is always and only coming from the sense of separation, no matter which species we find it in, and where we find it in the universe. So, hope that helps to clear it up. If you have an interest in these things, that's great. But and if you can maintain that interest without being distracted from the main awakening, which is to see that we're that in which every form appears, then that's perfect too. If it is distracting, as it was for me for a little while, maybe just set it aside for now until you really fully establish yourself in the knowing of who you really are. And these answers come from the inside. Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, I think this is the last question we can do for now. We'll finish with this question. Thanks, Anish.
Today I finished Into the Heart of Being, the book, and it stirred a deep question in me. I also bought Dissolving the Ego as a physical copy, which I want to keep close. It feels special. I've been on a spiritual journey for about 15 years. Osho was my first master. At 13, I saw one of his books in Nepal. The line on the cover was "Go deep within yourself, and there you will find an inner sky." Touched me deeply. I wasn't allowed to read it, but that was one line that stayed with me. I began to feel peace just visualizing that inner sky. Later, I would read Osho's Hindi discourses on the radio early in the morning at my small shoe shop, and that felt like a gift. After moving to the US, I found more teachers, Krishnamurti, Eckhart Tolle, and many others. But over time, I felt I couldn't walk only the path of knowledge. I turned towards devotion, especially to the Divine Mother. I was looking for an English translation of the Lalita Sahasranama when I found your book, Into the Heart of Being, and I felt it was her grace that brought me to it. Strangely, it happened right after I told myself I would stop reading spiritual books altogether. I feel very blessed to have found your work. It has brought me peace and lightness. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Divine Mother. If she appeared before us now, what might she say? And how can we truly connect with her, especially without a living guru? With gratitude.
It's a little challenging to answer this question without crying, but perhaps most of all to question the fact that, or question the idea that there's anything you need to do to connect other than the intention. That beautiful, loving presence is what you are also, right? And there is what I am also. All of us are that divine mother, the presence of that which is only loving, only nurturing, only caring? And can I drop my stories about what I need to do to connect? And for me, that was, or to realize that as myself. For me, that was to let go of any stories that I wasn't worthy, or I wasn't ready, or that that presence would reject me, that the Divine Mother would see some flaw inside me, and it's literally not possible. The Divine Mother will see only perfection. It is our real nature, and it sees only itself everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It sees nothing other than that. And it is, in fact, that transformative seeing that brings a sense of wholeness within ourselves. And everything that we look at from there, as the mother ourselves, in form already, an incarnation of love is what we are. That divine presence of love that became forth as that love to nurture our bodies and minds, to nurture our beliefs, our sense of inadequacy and unworthiness, and our fear and our doubts and our shame and everything, that we came to nurture those so that they could return back to peace. We didn't come to perfect something that is imperfect, to make right what went wrong. That's not why we're here. We're here as an embodiment of love already. Being willing to admit that took me a little while, that maybe I chose to come to be a living embodiment of that. So much are we already aligned with that loving, nurturing presence that we would devote a whole lifetime. Of course, we might not remember that initially or for some years, but it's becoming clearer now for you. And just not to hold any distance between yourself and this Divine Mother, because it is who you are. She is who you are. She's asking this question and answering it too. What she's really saying, in effect, is how can I love myself more? And really, it comes down to dropping our stories about that. There's no end to the depth of love that we can embody, especially as we begin to realize who we really are. We are the father and the mother of the universe. And everything we look at, we can look at with the recognition that it is love in disguise also. The trusting that you're on the right path, of course you are. Everything is being taken care of, even if the mind doubts that right now. And being willing to drop any stories that you are less than the one that you want to connect with, or different from that one. When I finally admitted inside myself nothing needed to happen before I was able to let that love in, it came like a tsunami that gathers momentum and pace every single day. Whenever you read those words in that book, you said you really enjoyed it, and I'm really, really glad. Or whether you feel that presence in your heart, or you touch upon it in meditation, however we touch upon that, it's only showing us that it is what we are already. That's the thing that we eventually have to acknowledge. Not our mind will never acknowledge, but our heart already knows, right? And the title of the book, Into the Heart of Being, it is that, right? This is the heart of our being, that which has never changed. The loving mother's presence right here, right now, as us, speaking through us, sending lots of love. Thank you, Anish, for asking all these questions to help. And thank you, everyone, for sending them in. We do have a little queue building, so we're working as fast as we can each month. If you would like to get more help more directly, you are always welcome to join our community. There'll be a link below in the description of this on YouTube to join. But if you go to helenhamilton.org, there'll be a link on the homepage there to join the community. And there's a whole host of resources, much more direct help from me. We have a whole load of archives of classes Community's been going for over 5 years now and it's growing all the time. Also, we have a virtual online ashram, really, a WhatsApp ashram, which currently I'm still able to answer questions on each day. So you can get more direct help that way as well. And just support from loving beings walking the same path as well. It cannot be understated, the support of a loving community. Celebrating with us when we move beyond something, and also supporting us and lifting us up when we feel we can't do it by ourselves right now. So you're always welcome to join, or you can email info@helenhamilton.com if you need some help finding that. Thank you so much for sending in all of your questions. We'll be back in just over a month to look at the next set. And I wish you love and peace and many, many blessings. Thank you. Namaste. Wonderful. Thank you.